Hi, it's Dee Tozer here, and today I'm talking about one of the key questions asked in my private sessions, which is, what can I do when he or she is so unreasonable? Now, unreasonable goes against our own logic and sense of reason, which is why we notice it, resist it, and we want to put our own perfectly reasonable point of view across as strongly as we feel is needed to get our partner to see our reasoning and reasonableness. Which takes us to this question: what is reasonable? And how does that create so much grief in our relationships? Literally, to say someone is unreasonable means that they can't be reasoned with at all, using conventional logic. They will typically stick to a point of view even when it's clear there is no basis in logic. However, with the emotionality of couples, generally accepted logic often doesn't get a look in, and this boils down to the fact that we all have different maps of the world, usually drawn together from firstly our families, then education and friendships, and often described as the nurture we were exposed to growing up, and secondly from the combination of our personality type and how our genetic line of inherited behaviours interact, which is often referred to as nature, and then how both nature and nurture impact our perceptions of the world. This is evident in cross-cultural marriages, very clear, and most of us are very aware of how these cultural differences can impact and cause much conflict within a marriage. The boundaries are less clear-cut between a couple with similar cultural upbringings and of similar socio-economic status. And this is where unreasonableness, the act of being unreasonable, and the unreasonable accusations can create the greatest harm to a relationship. What happens is that we each bring with us into our relationship a set of beliefs, expectations and values, and many of these contain the word should, often referred to as shouldisms. The more shouldisms there are on one side or other, or residing in both partners in a relationship, then the greater the potential for unreasonable behaviour to be present. So it makes sense then that where shouldisms are similar in each partner, then less unreasonableness is likely to occur. Here's the thing, we don't often hear or say, wow, that's so reasonable, do we? Or, that's great, you're being so reasonable. Unless we're referring to a price tag in a store perhaps. That's a reasonable price. It's almost like we don't notice reasonableness because it's not confronting or raising angst. It flows along almost invisibly under the surface. Seems it's easy, but in point of fact it isn't. Most of us in tense relationships find being reasonable extremely hard to do. Why is reasonable so hard to do? Because our beliefs, our maps of the world, etc., are so strongly entrenched in our psyche that we often truly believe we are right, that our way is the only way, and showing up as reasonable means you're prepared to listen effectively and cooperate considerately with your partner, and recognise and acknowledge his or her way has meaning and merit. And because we each have a large pile, often a whole skyscraper of shouldisms and expectations, we justify and validate, and this shuts out our partner's views, shuts them down. Justifying and validating are self-protective, and they dominate and rule out reasonable. Unreasonableness is much easier because it's the powerful position, and in the heat of the moment, it dismisses your partner's position. You may feel so strongly about your view that you might feel there's no need to even acknowledge your partner's position. And in snappy word-for-word verbal exchange, unreasonable takes the higher ground and has the strongest impact at closing the other partner down, because it's like there is nothing left that they can say. No one is listening. The unreasonable partner typically doesn't listen. It's my way or the highway, and that's common. Stuck in the trenches because you think you're right, or you want to be right, you want to dominate, win, no matter what. However, it typically ends up lose-lose. The overriding message being, my view is worth more than our relationship and family. Therefore, suck it up. So warning, there is a cost to this. What is the cost of unreasonableness? Ongoing unreasonableness causes so much heartache. family disintegration, loss of family home, financial loss, loss of business, ongoing unreasonableness is often due to stubbornly holding on to a view just for the sake of holding on to that view. And I can ask a partner why he or she is holding onto a particular view, and often, very often, they can't say why, and will admit they don't know why. So how does it feel to think that holding on hard to your view could be costing you your relationship, your family, your home? It's a very costly risk to run. I'm just saying here, perhaps a penny has just dropped for you as you realise that you're the one, or you're one of those people who can't say why or don't know why you hold on to being unreasonable. Yet, at some level you know you are. A big part of the answer here is couched in another common human behaviour, and we don't have to dig very deep into unreasonableness before we bring up another important word, which is frequently used between couples. And it starts with S and ends with N. Any guesses? Yes, aha, if you guessed stubborn, you are right. And this could be you. Did you guess it? I'm being a little playful here with this because it's a major cause of so much grief in relationships. And taking a more light-hearted look may be a little more comfortable to some people watching this. In my private client sessions, I call it the S factor. For those of you who are in a relationship with an S factor person, then you'll know that they are often proud to be labelled as stubborn, even wear this title like a badge of honour. But they don't like to be called out on it when they're faced with the reality of the consequences of being stubborn for stubborn's sake. So why do some people hang in there, sticking to their opinion no matter what, even when they can see it's damaging their relationship and turning their partner off, even when it makes no sense to do this? The answer can either be in having a poor self-esteem, where the need to be right is so overwhelming that reason is lost, or it lies in having an exaggerated sense of being all-powerful, where the need for dominance and control rules no matter what. Win at any cost. There are many human behaviour theorists who would say that being all-powerful, being dominant and controlling arises from having a poor self-esteem and the need to constantly prove oneself and your worth. Therefore, the reason behind stubbornness is the same either way. And I call this the S factor. So if you or your partner or both of you are S factor types, hence hitting the wall of unreasonableness day in and day out, does this mean your relationship has no chance? Well, without guidance or coaching, then it's highly likely that your relationship actually will not survive. But the good news is that if you both have a strong enough desire to be together, to love each other, to make a life together or keep a life together, then with gentle supportive encouragement to open your hearts and minds to a life where stubbornness has no place or only minimal in a fun sense, you can make the shift to cooperative companionship. I can hear some viewers thinking, oh, but I will lose myself and lose my identity. That's just me. Love me as I am. If I give up stubbornness, that will take all the fun out of life. You know, if I can't be stubborn when I want to, I have strong beliefs and that's how I like it. Well, whoopsie there. There are two of you in the relationship and all of these thoughts are only about you, speaking the obvious. So to recap here, stubborn unreasonableness causes harm. It's not honourable. It's not okay if you